Back to you, Anderson.
Thanks very much, Carol. We're going to go now to Nacogdoches, Texas, where Ed Lavandera, standing by, has been throughout most of the day. As Barbara Starr reported just a little bit, some debris has been found in Louisiana. People have been looking for debris all over in regions in eastern Texas. Ed Lavandera in Nacogdoches. Ed, what's the scene there?
Well, Anderson, if you'll allow me, we're here in downtown Nacogdoches, and the parking lot you see behind me, just in the distance over there, you'll see what really amounts to a 3-by-3-foot piece of the space shuttle. And what this has essentially turned into has been a gathering point for the citizens of Nacogdoches and many of the residents around here who have many stories of their own to share today. Many of the witnesses we've talked to describe how they heard a thundering sound that lasted, one woman told me that it felt like it lasted 2 minutes. So they heard all this sound, this chaotic sound, which many people have described in so many different ways. But here, people have come here throughout the day and have been sharing their stories, really, and the only thing to look at is that small piece of debris in the middle of this parking lot. And this is very significant of what we have seen throughout the area in East Texas. We have drove down this morning from Dallas to Nacogdoches, about a 3.5-hour drive, and you've seen scenes like this all day long where there have been small pieces of wreckage where either military officials, local police, or state police, even private landowners. This is a very rural area in some parts of East Texas, and so a lot of private landowners taking it upon themselves to cordon off the smallest piece of wreckage to make sure that nobody touches it. So I've gotten the sense that a lot of people have really been paying attention to the warnings that authorities have put out to the folks here. But this is very different from the other scenes, because this is kind of is taking place in the heart of the city here, and you see just a lot of people getting together, sharing their stories that they've gone through today, enlightening each other about what exactly they saw when all this transpired this morning. We've seen several people come out here this morning, this afternoon, to leave flowers. The flags that fly around here at this bank, for example, this is a parking lot that's just behind a bank. The flags here have been flying at half-staff throughout the day. So very quiet scene for the most part as people kind of reflect on their own stories and where they were this morning. Anderson?
And just a bizarre scene, the idea of debris raining down from the sky early on a quiet morning in a small Texas town. Ed, thanks very much for that report. Luckily, no people injured there that we know about at this point. We're going to go back now to Washington. Judy Woodruff, who's standing by. Judy?
Thanks, Anderson. You know, it's not just debris on the ground that apparently now is an issue. There is also debris in the air, which is creating a problem for some air flights in the United States. Joining us again, Patty Davis, our correspondent who covers aviation. Patty, this is something I think it's hard for some people to imagine, that not all the shuttle fell all the way to Earth. Some of it is still up there.
Absolutely huge debris field. FAA saying about 2 hours ago, putting out a notice to airmen saying that in fact this debris field is something like 95 miles long, 13 to 22 miles wide, and it's warning pilots to watch out for it. It's calling it a visibility issue. About 2 hours ago, it was around Lake Charles, Louisiana, and it was headed southeast towards the Gulf. Also, the FAA today established a no-fly zone, about 60-mile radius. That is around Fort Polk, Louisiana. No one could fly within that 60-mile radius there, and coming below 3,000 feet. FAA putting out that notice, that alert, that temporary flight restriction is what they call it, so that airplanes would not get in the way of rescue crews or crews working to find debris.
So they're really working at two different angles of this, Patty. On the one hand, they want people to stay away, literally to stay away from the area where they believe a lot of debris is on the ground. But in addition, now they have this issue of much finer debris up in the air, in the atmosphere.
Absolutely. FAA concerned about both angles.
Okay, Patty Davis, who's been reporting for us all afternoon. Anderson, it's back to you.
Judy, thanks very much. In a little bit, Judy, we're going to be going to Israel to talk to a documentary filmmaker who has been making a film about Ilan Ramon, the colonel, the Israeli colonel, who of course died earlier today. But first, before we do that, we're going to go to the Kennedy Space Center and Lou Dobbs, who's standing by. Lou?
Anderson, thank you very much. Here at the Kennedy Space Center, NASA executives and employees here are obviously trying desperately to come to grips with the tragedy that has befallen the nation, all of us. but most particularly this group of people, the men and women of NASA, some 15,000 strong, who are at the forefront of our space exploration program. The shuttle Columbia, 28 missions. This is the 113th flight of a shuttle. Columbia first flew in 1981. And for this tragedy to befall the 7 crewmen and crew women of Columbia, to befall NASA now, just as so much was beginning to be right about NASA, so much focus on the future of space exploration, new discussions about propulsion systems and new types of space vehicles, new ideas about where next to extend the reach of mankind, is compounding, frankly, the tragedy. And the people here at Kennedy, I think one has to say first and foremost, they are doing remarkable work, because for them it is a personal pain, it is a personal loss, certainly a loss and a pain shared by all of us. But without question, for these fine men and women, these are the most difficult hours. Unfortunately, many of them have gone through these hours before, with the loss of Challenger in 1986, and of course with Apollo 1, the launch pad fire. There is also a remarkable thing about NASA, and that is this family of professionals who take great pride in leading America in exploration of space. They have the ability to deal with tragedy, to start analyzing, to start trying to come up with the solutions to the problems that manifested themselves at about 9 o'clock Eastern Time aboard Columbia. The memorial services begin tonight. The struggle to understand what went wrong has already begun. And let's go now to Gary Tuckman at the Kennedy Space Visitor Center.
Well, Lou, we're at the Visitor Center here at the Kennedy Space Center. 1.8 million tourists come here every year to take a look at museums that are on the grounds, and they go on buses to see the launch pad areas. Behind me, a granite black wall. This is the Astronaut Memorial Wall. 17 names of astronauts who died. 10 of them died on airplanes in crashes before they got to go into space. But you'll recognize some of the names. On the bottom there, you see Gus Grissom, Edward White II, and Roger Chaffee, who died in that launch pad fire, January 27th, 1967. To the left, you'll see 7 names you're familiar with. Those are the 7 astronauts: Francis Scobie, Michael Smith, Ellison Onizuka, Judith Resnick, Ronald McNair, Krista McAuliffe, Gregory Jarvis, who died January 28th, 1986, when the Challenger exploded 1 minute and 13 seconds after taking off. And we soon assume, and we know because officials here tell us, that the people you see on the bottom there, the picture on the very bottom under the bouquet that was put up there shortly after this accident happened, these are the 7 people whose names will soon be on this black granite wall also. Michael Anderson, David Brown, Kalpana Chawla, Laurel Clark, the commander of the mission, Rick Husband, William McCool, and Ilan Ramon. Those are the 7 astronauts who perished, whose names will soon be on this black granite memorial that was put here in 1991. 17 names now, 24 names soon to be on the wall. Tourists have been coming here all day. We are told there were 1,000 tourists here earlier. Many of them came to see the shuttle land. You have a vantage point here of the shuttle sweeping over this area to land on the runway, which is just to my right. They found out about the accident. Many have stuck around, paying homage to those who died. 3 people who came here today, this family right here. This is Mary Krim right here. She's 12 years old. And Sonny Ellison, they are from this area. They came here when they heard what happened. Mary, let me ask you, you were here in 1986 when the Challenger exploded. You're living through this again. It's a local story because you know a lot of people who work here. Tell me how you're feeling right now.
Sadness. True sadness. Sadness for the families and sadness for America. And sadness for Israel, too. They lost someone, too.
Sonny, you were telling me you are a teacher. You teach social studies.
Yes, sir.
To 7th graders here.
Yes,
what are you
sir.
going to tell your children when you go back to school on Monday?
I'm going to have them all repeat the names of the astronauts and talk about their families. And just Thursday or Friday, we just talked about the Challenger, so we had their picture out, and I got a nice mural of that. And we're going to talk about peace in the world, and like I said to you earlier, I'd like to see America offer Iraq a chance to send an astronaut up.
What does that mean?
To send Iraqi astronaut up.
You're talking about as a goodwill gesture.
That's a goodwill gesture, yes, sir.
Okay, well, we can talk about that another time. But what I want to know is, as you stand next to this wall right here, how does it make you feel?
It's sad and proud.
And I want to talk to your daughter too.
Yes, sir.
You're 12 years old in 6th grade. When you heard about this from your mom and dad this morning, how did you feel?
I was really, really sad that people died just for trying to help mankind.
And that's a good way to sum it up. They did indeed try to help mankind, and they perished doing it. Thank you for talking with us. We appreciate it, Allison family. Behind me, you could probably see in the background there a tail. That is a replica of the space shuttle. It is the most exact replica known to man, built here at the Visitor Center at the Kennedy Space Center. And this is where tourists go. They actually can board and go inside, and they're doing it today with a great deal of sadness. Lou, back to you.